Hi everyone, my name is Monish. I head the marketing for Business Standard. Welcome. This webinar is a part of a series by us to understand these uncertain times a bit better. And we have with us Mr. Yashish Dahiya, co-founder and group CEO of Policybazaar, an IIT Delhi, IIM Ahmedabad, INSEAD alumnus. Yashish founded Policybazaar in 2008. Interestingly, another tentative time for the economy. The company became a disruptor for the insurance industry. But equally worth mentioning, he is one of India's top triathletes and has completed 7 Ironmans. Now that is the resilience one looks at to deal with uncertain, challenging times. Over to you, Yashish.
Thank you very much. Look forward to the next 45 minutes, 1 hour, and getting some very interesting questions from you guys. So I started Policybazaar in 2008, and the basic reason why we started, and I'll talk a bit about COVID also, but let me kind of get into the basic reason. The basic reason to start was there was very little health insurance and life insurance in India. And what do I mean by that? See, the entire middle class in India, if they have a death or a disease of the primary earning member, then it's very difficult for the rest of the family to manage financially the way they were managing while the earning member was carrying on. When you look at Western societies, they do have social security and some level of job security. I think for the lower income group, there is some level of social security in India as well. But you would all agree that for the middle class, it isn't there. And a lot of people do belong to the middle class, roughly about 200-300 million people. And that group really suffers. And there hasn't really been a huge awareness in the middle class around the costs of medical care, around the increasing costs of medical care, and around the increasing cost of living, which their children, etc., would have to face in case the primary member was not there. Now, everybody hopes and wishes that they don't fall sick and nothing bad happens to them. But the reality is, stuff happens, and people do die every day, and people do fall sick as well. Okay, so I'll leave that aside. So we decided that we needed to solve this. The biggest issue in this was educating the consumer. So we've spent the last 12 years, we've spent upwards of 1,500 crore rupees in running awareness campaigns, advertising campaigns, talking about why people need to buy life insurance, health insurance in the country. Now I come to a second point. The second point was, historically, insurance was sold as an investment product in India. What does that mean? That means most people were told, you invest so much, you will get this return. And yes, there is a component of insurance also in it, which will help you save taxes. Now, when you do that, you don't really need to worry about, okay, so let's step back. Now, at the same time, if you sell a term insurance product, you take 10,000 rupees from somebody, but if they expire within 6 months, you need to pay them 1 crore rupees. So out there, suddenly you get into analytics, you get into actuarial analysis, and you really need to be very careful whom you are selling this product to. You would all agree with me that if I take 50,000 rupees from somebody and promise to give them back 60,000 after a couple of years, I don't need to know who they are. I really don't need to know who they are, except for some anti-money laundering and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, if I'm going to give somebody a 1 crore cover by taking 10,000 rupees from them, I really need to know who they are, because they could already be dead. They could be very unwell. A lot of things could be going on, right? So I need to do medicals, I need to do inspections, I need to do a lot of stuff. And what all of that implies is I need to have a lot of data. I need to understand people. So that's the second part. And here comes a more fundamental part. Any seller, including me, any marriage maker, any matchmaker, will always try to give you the better parts of both sides. So he will try to say that the product is very good, and he will also try to tell the company that the customer is very good. There is nothing wrong with the customer. And that in insurance is a big problem. That can make companies go bust. So with this knowledge, we started with selling life insurance and health insurance, collecting data. And lo and behold, over this last 12 years, the huge amount of data that's been collected basically points to the fact that digital has got a very, very different claims ratio compared to offline. And that claims ratio essentially allows people to create better products. So our job has largely become collecting all this data, making it available to the insurance companies so they can create beautiful products, which they don't have the ability to distribute offline because of the lack of disclosure on the part of the consumer, and thus keep creating better products. The third aspect we work on is to make sure that the fulfillment can happen online or remotely. So for example, instead of doing a physical verification, what one would do is do some kind of a video call along with some Aadhaar or some document, so that you know that the person is alive, the person is well. You can speak to them, you can have a doctor talk to them, do some tele medicals with them. Those are the kind of things that one is investing in. Also do video-based inspections. All of these allow the customer to not leave their house or their home or their office, but at the same time be able to conclude an insurance policy. So we've been now, it's been 10, 12 years, we've been investing in all of this, and we've been growing. So we are now, I think, amongst the largest insurance entities in the country. We do a few thousand crores of insurance every year, etc., etc. But we have 13,000 employees who support customers. You would agree that, when you buy a health insurance or a life insurance policy for the next 20, 30 years of your life, you need to speak to somebody, you need to understand it a bit. And suddenly COVID happens. And when COVID happens, we are suddenly worried, because how will our offices work? People have to go home. And if people work from home, how exactly will we support everything? Because, we have, please understand, we have 13,000 people, at least half of them are in sales. What that means is they talk to customers in a very timely manner and give them information so they can buy insurance policies. And, them being at home would cause a lot of difficulties. We have systems which over the years have been designed to work on a desktop in the office. We have a whole office environment, security, because we are working in the financial services industry. But within the next 5 days, everybody's working from home. Everything is working fine. We've got people desktops and laptops and handheld devices and various things, iPad kind of things, right? And there is no productivity loss. In fact, there is a productivity gain. We have 17 business units. Out of the 17 business units, about 10 grew by about 25 to 40%. And roughly 5, 6 got totally wiped out. But, on the whole, what we saw was two kind of things happening. Either the entire business unit gets shut down, or the business unit has largely grown. Now, what does that point to? That points that consumers have the demand, but if you have any physical process in the middle, that has become extremely difficult to conclude, because, obviously, in these days, nobody's going to go and get a medical done or get a, physical inspection done. Even for a credit card, nobody is giving documents so that you can fulfill a credit card policy for them. So I think it's been an interesting learning. And now, just yesterday, it's been announced that 33% of the staff can get back to work. Our business is working fine without being in office. And this brings another important question. Should we come back into office, right? My view is, at least temporarily, we must come back into office, some part of our teams. And that is psychological. It's a psychological victory to be able to say, I can come into office, I will choose not to, rather than I just can't go to office. I think it's a very debilitating situation when you're told you just cannot do something, right? The fact that you can do it and you choose not to do it is giving you the power, and I think that's very important for our teams and our people to know. Uh, I think there were three broad trends happening in insurance. One was the move towards online. Second was the move towards risk products, health insurance, life insurance, instead of investment products. And I think the third was towards online and digital fulfillment. All three trends have been speeded up by COVID like nothing else. If I look at the entire insurance landscape, uh, the amount of investment that has, or amount of action that's happened on the digital side in the last 4 weeks may otherwise have taken 2 years. So, it's interesting times, but, instead of this being a monologue and me going on and on, I would much rather, if at this stage we could get into a bit of a Q&A and start taking specific questions. If any of you have been hearing with intent, you would probably have some questions. And at the same time, if there aren't enough questions, I can start again.
Yashish, we have some questions already. We could start with them if you want to.
Which sectors do you see as sunrise sector in the post-COVID world? The jobs in coming times might require different skills, such as virtual teams work. What skills do you foresee which business school graduates should cultivate? I think there are various sectors that will do quite well. For example, anything. Let's step back a bit. Let's say, what has COVID done? COVID has basically brought in this concept of social distancing, which is almost anti-urbanization. It is anti-malls, it's anti-large offices, it's almost, back to rural, right? Now, India has a huge service sector. And that's a big advantage because, the service sector is the one sector. So both the agricultural sector and the service sector can actually be worked on remotely. Remotely in the sense, you can do agriculture in a dispersed manner, and you can provide services with today's infrastructure and technology. You can provide services from all over the country. I think the big opportunity for all of us is somehow de-urbanization, going back into the rural, and that has multiple opportunities like education technology. People in villages, people in remote places can and should have access to the same level of education as anybody else. I'm obviously doing some courses from some business schools which are located in the US, but I'm not in the US. So I'm just doing that remotely. I think a lot of people can, as the schools shut down, what we learned was all the children could keep studying. So there's a lot of investment required in that. The world hasn't fully evolved to a fully remote education mechanism, but I think that, is a reality that's staring us. I think another sector would be just the whole services piece, the BPOs, KPOs, etc. But working from home, dispersed technologies, people management skills. Of course, for the short while, things like medicine, etc., would continue to do quite well. Okay, let me look at the other questions. There seem to be quite a few now. Historically, life insurance companies have done well post a pandemic. That happens. The reason for that is when a event like COVID or anything happens, or a SARS happens, people's awareness around health insurance and life insurance gets heightened because they believe, our mind is designed to look at things which happened very recently. So people look at what happened most recently and they run to buy policies. But, the chance of a COVID happening uh, has not increased just because we've had one event, right? And so what that implies is claims do go down in the future. So claims are not as frequent usually. So if you already noticed, motor insurance claims have really gone down. It's become very profitable business for most companies, even health insurance. Because earlier, if you fell sick, you just went to a hospital. Today, if you just fall sick, you're not going to run to a hospital. You'll most likely stay away from hospital as much as possible, unless you really have to go there. So I think, yes, it becomes a more profitable business for the short while. But the insurance business is a long-term business, so you don't have to look at the next 2-3 years. But yes, 2-3 years, I think it will be a fairly profitable business, and there'll be a scale up also. How are you tackling the offline sales of insurance products? What is the impact because of the lockdown? So we don't do any offline sales of insurance products, so we don't have to tackle that. What type of insurance products will be high demand? I think, demand was always for the same products. The supply was different. You as a customer want health insurance and life insurance and car insurance and all those kind of products. You don't really want the investment products, right? You invest in them because somebody comes and asks you. So there is sort of induced demand and actual demand. So I think the actual demand is for health and life, and those continue to be, there. With protection plans garnering a larger share of overall business, given its lower costs, do we expect more and more people in both urban and non-urban? Oh, yeah, absolutely. I do not know how a middle class person. Let's take a person who's earning 7 lakh rupees a year. Okay, is a 35-year-old person, middle class. Is married, has got 2 kids. One kid is 3 years old. One kid is 1 year old. This person next day ceases to exist. Let's look at it very, clinically. How exactly does his family and those kids manage, right? Because they were relying on this income, right? I think he really needs to think through why he does not buy life insurance. Let's look at health insurance. Many of the hospitals, if you go to them, can cost you 25,000-30,000 rupees a day. How exactly will this person earning 7 lakh rupees manage if one of his family members has to spend 15 days in hospital? Because 15 days in hospital will be 3-4 lakh rupees gone. So I think just understanding that you need health insurance and life insurance, and it's stupid to roam around without health or life insurance, is extremely critical for the middle class. I doubt many middle class people can even use a government hospital facility, with no disparagement, but I think that's a challenge. Sumit, what can be done to take the insurance to the rural sector? India is still heavily underinsured in terms of home, health, agriculture. Is there scope for new business idea to evolve into this space? I certainly think yes. But see, here's my thought process, and it could be different from most other people. I think it's different from most other people. I do not think about how we're going to make money first. I think about what is the problem first. And I think the problem is not, is basically health insurance, is life insurance, is agriculture insurance. And if we know that problem well enough, then we have to figure out what is the economical way to solve this problem. We have to also be sure there's something that will be led by awareness or through some kind of micro insurance concept. So yes, I do think there is a demand for these products, but education may be lacking. And the second part is you have to be very careful what becomes a public area and what stays a private area. Because if you get into an area which is going to become a public area, then you may not survive. Like, I'll give you a very simple example, right? Suppose I started the health insurance, but I really targeted the extremely poor, right? Uh, Now, at some stage, that's going to become a public area, and what that implies is the government is going to give something like a health insurance for free for people below a certain poverty level, which means I won't have a business, right? So one has to be a little careful of that. You get into agriculture insurance, you start building a business, and then the government comes in and says, okay, for agriculture insurance, 99% will be subsidized by the government. And you are suddenly thinking, oh my God, why did I? Because you'll be taking private money, remember, unless you are part of the government or in partnership with the government. So you really need to think through how and why. So which is why I have chosen the middle class, not the real poor. And I know it's a politically not correct thing to say, uh, but the reason I've chosen the middle class is because I believe the middle class uh, may not have the government stepping in and saying, okay, the health insurance and life insurance I will provide, because it's a little expensive to provide, and the middle class is a little aspirational. What I mean by aspirational, most middle class do not want to go to a government hospital. If somebody is living in Gurgaon, they want to go to a Medanta, they want to go to a Fortis, they want to go to a good hospital. And the moment you want to go to a good hospital, that costs money. It costs a lot of money, and thus that by definition is not something that the government will give for free. So then you have to think about insurance, and that's where private insurance comes in. So I think from that perspective, I've kept myself totally to the middle class. But yes, there is of course a big market out there. All you have to think about is how will you approach that market? Will it be in partnership with the government? Will it be in will it be through some kind of micro structure that you need to think about? How optimistic is the growing trend in risk insurance products like health insurance? About 70% increase in demand. So there are about 70% more customers who are coming and asking for health insurance and life insurance. The conversion is roughly flat. So yes, both these products have grown. There's no doubt about it. But then you can't say if it's happening because of the consumer alone, or it's because we've also been more active on our advertising. So the latest programs on television, we've been spending about double of what we've usually spent. So that also leads to traffic. So it's very difficult to tell whether it's natural traffic or it's paid traffic in a way, right? But yeah, 70% higher inquiries. Do you feel that way businesses operate will go back to normal, or will the impact of COVID? Okay, very interesting question. See, I think the lockdown is going to be over at some point. At some point, maybe in a week, maybe in 5 weeks, maybe in 3 months, right? But at some point, the lockdown cannot carry on. As the lockdown carries on, we are economically going to be in a very, very difficult position as a country. But social distancing will carry on. See, something very deep has started to happen. As I see what my parents have started to, my dad is 85, my mom is 70 something, right? They have put a lock. They have an independent house. They've put a lock on both sides of the house. Nothing comes in, nothing goes out. It is very unlikely that in the next 1 year also, they're going to invite, let's say, an insurance agent to come to their house and have a cup of tea, which was a very noble thing for them to do earlier. I think it's very unlikely that they will let, for example, somebody into the house to, clean the utensils. I think that's not going to happen for a long time to come. So I think, yes, there will be, I think the time before my parents go to a mall again or walk into the bank again, just, to talk, to chit chat, that's not going to happen for some time. So I think social distancing is here to stay, and that is not a 1 week, 2 week, 5 week, 6 week, 3 month affair. That is at least a 2-3 year affair. And I think businesses need to take that into account as they start to think things through. It's like what 9/11 in a way did to flights. the level of security checking was never that extreme. But suddenly, everywhere in the world, everything started getting checked, double checked, triple checked. The other day, we were joking with me and my kids when we were coming from, Coimbatore. I think it was Coimbatore or one of these places, and we spent about 1.5 to almost 2 hours in the various security checks. Now that is extreme, right? But that happened, and I think that's the long-term impact of 9/11, and the long-term impact of COVID is going to be social distancing. So businesses need to kind of think about that. How does Policybazaar aim to compete with more structured insurance players like Digit and Acco who enter into the health space as well? Uh, I think there are already enough players in the health insurance space. I'm sure more are welcome. So, and we don't compete with insurers. We do not compete with insurers. We are a marketplace. So we, promote all insurers, and we are an open architecture play. Uh, that's not a political statement. Now, if you really think about it, I don't know what is different about any new insurer. There are already 53 insurers in the country, right? How will there will be a COVID for a long time? How can the demand shock be recovered? Are we looking at longer recovery? I think there will be a big impact of COVID, which is far longer than the lockdown. I have no doubt about that. I think so the next question is a tourism sector. Come on, who's going to go on a tour? Think about it, right? People are sitting in their houses. I think, it's going to be a long time before somebody says, hey, you know what? I want to go on a trip. And where will you go? The international tourism is over. Why would you, so you get it, right? It doesn't make sense. Suddenly what was so normal just 3 months ago, suddenly doesn't make sense. And I don't think it's coming back in a hurry. When I was, I do these triathlons and marathons and all that stuff, right? I don't know when the next one will happen. All have been cancelled around the world. And I know it's a fairly economic thing and, everybody wants them and all that stuff. But, why exactly would 2,000 people get together in one place to do an Ironman event? If one of those people, by mistake, has COVID, he's going to give it to at least 40 right there. So, why exactly would you get onto a plane at random just because you want to take a tour, right? So I think, I think certain sectors, it's going to take a long time. Are digital underwriters, yes, digital underwriters. See, first of all, there's nothing like a digital underwriter. ICICI Lombard is fairly digital. HDFC General is very digital. Religare Health Insurance is very digital. So I think it's a misnomer to say somebody's a digital insurer. There are people who work with multiple channels, and there are people who work with, I know both, Acco and Digit, for example. They both work with multiple channels, both work through agency also, both have partnerships, both do everything. So I think there's nothing like a digital insurer in the country. Of course, if you are digital, you hopefully get access to better data, and you can leverage that better. There's no doubt about it. But look, digital is extremely expensive. And so most of the insurers that started as digital are no longer doing just digital. They are essentially either going and partnering with somebody and saying, okay, give me some business, I'll pay you for it. Or they are saying, I'd rather buy business from some broker. So if you really think about it, I don't want to name brokers, but there are brokers that give significant amount of business to, the companies that you mentioned. At both. So it's not just one, but it's both. Brokers, agents, they have fairly strong, POSP businesses, etc. Innovative products in the insurance have started in the last few years, like premium return post expiry of policy term on protection. How do you foresee? These are just mechanisms to sell the policy, right? So some people want money back, and I think you will have that. So various structures basically cater to various sensibilities. Some people feel very good about the fact that they will get their money back. Some people want a return. That's fine. You have to create what you have to create. And would tourism insurance be key for tourism sector? No, yeah, people are not going on tours because they don't have insurance. People are not going on tours because they don't want to get this COVID thing, right? So I think the tourism sector should just forget about itself, because yeah, I think it's going to take a very long time for it to get back. Does the ramp down of cover fox affect the broking sector? While there are small players in digital broking aggregators, does it lead to a cause of a monopoly, unhealthy? Look, I think it's a free country. There are 370 brokers. We are not the largest yet. Our market share would be about 3-4%. It's very far from being a single player kind of thing. Yes, in the digital area, we are putting in more sustained efforts over time, and yeah, we're doing well in that. So I think that's we are in a good position on that sector. I think it's unfortunate that a lot of people have not adhered basic discipline and built a business. One specific one has lost a lot of money and not quite built a business, which is quite sad. It's never a good practice, right? Because there are times when there is money available, but taking all that money and just burning it doesn't lead to much. That said, I don't want to speak negatively about anybody, but that's really not my problem if somebody decides to burn their money. I think we've run through the questions. Any others?
Can I ask you a couple of them on their behalf?
Yeah, sure.
Let me pull back a bit from insurance to entrepreneurship. I'm sure a few of the students here at least are thinking about job or starting something of their own, especially given the conditions right now. What are your views on entrepreneurship now and in the next 2 years to come? Is there a silver lining?
I think entrepreneurship is a great thing to do, but you must know what problem. There are two reasons. There's only one reason why you should do entrepreneurship. You should know what the problem is, and you should really, really, really want to be an entrepreneur for life. And I'll try to explain what I mean. I meet a lot of young people who get excited by the fact that there is a lot of money available, venture capital available, and so something must be started. So think of something, some hashed up idea, and the whole thing is kuch to bana lenge. And then it starts with pressure. 3 months mein ye, 3 months mein wo. If I achieve this, I will achieve that. It's a sad situation. You will waste your time, you will waste the investor's money, and you will gain nothing. Yes, you will arguably get some experience, but it's a very expensive experience. Now, if you're a little more sure about what you really want to do, I don't think money will ever be a problem. The money in this country is available like never before. Never before. Like just think of it, right? In 2008, when we raised $5 million, eyebrows were raised. Info Edge was built with 7.3 crore rupees. The entire Info Edge, which is now I think a $4-5 billion company, was built with 7.3 crore rupees. Till date, Policybazaar, the company that the brand that I have built, till date has used about $60 million. Till date. That's a big number, but it's very small compared to what many people have used. All I'm saying is you have to know that eventually the target is return on capital employed, not growth, not just growth, not just growth as in you keep growing without knowing what you're doing. So I think if you are confident about what problem you're solving and you're quite focused on it, the room for entrepreneurship is like never before. Capital is not the problem at all. Yes, if the idea is totally laughable, And if the person is doing it because they don't want to do anything else, but just want to be an entrepreneur for the heck of it, then yes, there's a chance they may not get capital. But otherwise, capital is available like nobody's business.
Do we have any other questions? One thing I'd definitely like to ask you, Yashish, is what would you advise students who are graduating this year or the next year?
Uh, if you get a job, you're very lucky. I'll give you a very simple example. I'll tell you. Maybe you guys appreciate it, maybe you don't appreciate it. When I talk to most kids in India, and even young people in India, the respect for a job is very low. Is extremely low. It is like वो तो मिल ही जाएगा. Job किसने कर रहा है? हमने सबने तो कुछ और बन रहा है. I have a double life in the sense I also part live in the UK and I part live in India. When I talk to kids in the UK, and I'm talking about the best schools, the best colleges, and I talk to them and I say, what is your aspiration? They say, I just hope I have a job. You see what I mean? The respect for a job is extremely high in the UK. Maybe it's because they feel it's going to be very difficult getting jobs. But in India, in the young people, I do not see the same respect for a job. And I would urge you, with somebody who's got, I grew up in India. I've done most of my work in India. Most of my living career is in India. I would urge you to develop a respect for the job you get, whatever it be. Because not having it I've seen it really harm people. Not having respect for the job. And at the same time, I've really seen it benefiting people who've had that respect. We've had a few employees who joined us very young, let me give you a few examples. Because that'll help you guys think this through, right? Naveen Kukreja joined us from Aviva to set up Policybazaar. Right? He's part of the company. His equity today is more than 100 crore rupees, right? And he can sell it. And this is within the last 5 years. And it's in a job. Let me give you more examples. We had a couple of call center employees about 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago. Tarun Bathur, Jerry Bhutia. Jerry Bhutia is today our head of sales after 12 years. Actually 14 years because it's the third company he's working with me in. I think his equity is worth about 40-50 crore rupees. Tarun Bathur's equity is similar. He's our chief business officer. What was different about these people versus other people who were also in the call center? They both were call center salespeople, right? Earning maybe 10,000 rupees a month or 5,000 rupees a month or something. Both kids. What was different about them was the fact that they respected their job. They did not take it lightly. They kept working at it. And the rewards are almost guaranteed. Right? As long as the right trade as well, right? If you're sitting in the wrong trade, then of course there's a problem. But if you are the right company and you keep at it, the rewards can be phenomenal. So that's what I would say to young people, that this year, getting a job will be very, very difficult. Please focus on that. And don't rely on your school to get you the job. Do not work on the placement date and all that stuff. Reach out to companies with a genuine intent. And that genuine intent can be anything. It can be anything. But as long as it's a genuine intent, it will come across. I promise you it will come across. if it is genuine. If you are just making it up, that will also come across, because people who are looking at it have serious experience. They can smell all this. Uh, but if you have a genuine interest in something and you approach that sector and you hone in and you find those 3 companies that are right for you, and you make it your focus to get the job in those 3 companies, reach out to those people, give them the right indications that you want to join those. I'll tell you what right indications are. Right indications can be, okay, don't give me a salary for the first 6 months, or give me just a stipend for the first 6 months, because I really, really want to join you. Look, no company is going to take you without a salary. But the point is that suddenly indicates that you're really keen. So all I'm saying is, please respect your jobs. Try to find one. This is going to be a very tough year. It's not going to be an easy year. So somebody said, as a recent, I believe that is due to competitive nature of our generation. Why do we respect our job? How do we balance it while also having the thought of not short selling ourselves and trying to find the best? Yeah, listen, don't worry about the short selling yourself kind of thing. Yeah, it's not a major issue. Somebody told me this about 20 years ago. If you have capability, there is no way to hide it. There is no way in this world to hide it. The only problem is uh, genuine capability, genuine uh, intent is very rare to find. But if it is there, I promise you, it is impossible to hide it. It'll shine through everything. So my view is, just develop that genuine intent and genuine capability, and nobody in the world can stop you. And you will never short sell yourself. I have never ever negotiated my salary, negotiated my equity with anyone, ever. Whatever they said, perfect, no problem. Whatever they said. And I haven't got a bad deal. Right? And I think that's very important. According to me, it's a very important thing that whatever your innate skills are, your innate abilities are, they shine through automatically. Don't have to worry too much. Don't listen to all these specialists who say negotiate everything, don't undersell yourself. Yeah, come on. You think I'm going to kind of, unnecessarily, I just gave you examples, right? If you find the right manager, if you don't find the right team, at some point you will depart from them. Don't worry about it. But we're not misusing people, right? I just gave you some examples. These people are doing very well. And the reason they're doing well is because they showed that innate ability and that innate intent. So I think, yeah, that is, I don't want to give you guys a rosy picture that, look, the world is very nice and it's just waiting for you and all that stuff. The world is tough. But if you have the innate ability, it will shine through. Nobody can hide it. How do you see Geoforce book create? Look, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. My view is, yes, I do think uh, something will develop, but there's a lot of competition. India is a very open market. And whenever somebody believes that capital will win the entire race, it doesn't happen. And I'll tell you why it doesn't happen. There's too much capital in the world. And losing India is not an option for anybody. So whether it's an Amazon, whether it's a Geo, whether it's a Google, whether it's a Facebook, whether it's an Apple, they will all put everything in here, and they have a lot. All of these are trillion-dollar companies, like whatever, almost trillion-dollar companies, right? So I think, yeah, India will continue to be a land of intense competition and very difficult profitability for a long time to come. Anything else?
It's almost time, so if there are no other questions, we can call it a wrap.
There's somebody who's written some stuff. What is the strategy difference between selling a new policy and renewal of an old policy? How is digitization impacting this? See, in insurance, the effort is in selling a new policy. So yes, you will streamline renewals and make it online and all that stuff, and that's the easy part. The tough part is how do you get customers? Because that is really what distribution is about. So I think yeah, that's what I'd say. Okay then, cool. Thank you.
Yashish, thank you so much for being here today. Very
Thank you.
insightful. I'm sure it was
Thank you.
more so for the students. And thank you so much. And
All
many
right.
thanks to all of you for listening in.
Thank you guys. Have fun.
Bye. Bye.